Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 2 of my Lyrical Monasterio Alestiel deck. So version 2, everything through the additional special set, so through Festival Booster 2023 in this deck's case. And this deck has received quite a nice upgrade, with Alestiel herself getting her new DressUp form, which overall the deck is still extremely piece reliant, and you do have to get all your combo pieces in order to not completely brick. But the deck is a little bit more consistent now with being able to get those pieces into your hand, and you can actually get 2 Vanguard attacks per turn as well now. So a very cool upgrade. So as always, we'll be going through the deck and then we'll show it off in one card fight for you to see it in action. So starting first with the ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Monochromic Personality Alestiel. So when she's rolled upon, if you win second, draw a card, standard D-Series starter. Next for the Grade 1, we have Indecisive Sky Alestiel. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you bind the top card of your deck. So depending on the grade of that card, it will either activate her White Wings or Black Wings ability. So if you get an odd grade off of that, it will activate the White Wings ability, that is her continuous skill. That says when you would ride from your ride deck, you may Soul Blast one instead of choosing a card from your hand and discarding it. So giving you that alternate ride cost, letting you preserve the cards in your hand. Or if you bind an even grade off the top of your deck, then her Black Wings ability will be active, which is another continuous skill that says all of your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards cannot attack this unit. So a nice defensive ability, helping prevent an early game rush from your opponent. If they call a bunch of grade 1s to try to rush you down early game, they won't be able to attack your Vanguard with those grade 1 rear guards. So which ability you get access to here is completely random chance based on what you bind off the top of your deck, so you don't know which one you're going to have access to. If you go first, then getting the Black Wings is usually better to prevent that rush, and if you go second, then they're going to be a grade 2 at that point. They could probably just rush you with grade 2s, so it's usually better to get the White Wings in that situation. But yeah, you have no control over which one you get, so you just have to go with what you get. And there is, of course, a small chance that you could get both of them active if you end up binding Elgato from the top randomly. So next for the Grade 2, we have Shining As Is Alestiel. So her auto ability says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you choose a card from your bind zone and put it on the bottom of your deck. And if you put a card, you bind the top card of your deck face up. So this sends the one that was bound off of your Grade 1 Alestiel to the bottom and lets you bind a new card. So again, you'll randomly either get her White Wings or Black Wings ability. So if you bind an odd grade and you get the White Wings, it is an activated skill that says once per turn you can counterblast one, and this unit gets critical +1 until end of turn. Or if you bind an even grade and you get her Black Wings ability, it is a continuous skill that says during the battle this unit attacked, your opponent cannot call trigger units from hand to Guardian Circle. So she either gets extra critical pressure on her Vanguard attack, or gets a guard restrict. So again, it is totally random which one you get based on what you happen to bind off the top. And again, there is that chance you could possibly get both of them active, which would be very nice, because then you'll have crit pressure and guard restrict. So could make it kind of hard for your opponent to block that attack. So yeah, random chance of what you get there, but either way, it helps in your offense. So then lastly for the Grade 3, we have Alestiel's new form, Holy Angel of Blessings Alestiel. So first off, she has her DressUp ability that also makes her name Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel during this fight. So these DressUp forms for the lyrical units are new forms for all of them that retain the names of their original forms. Of course, this form has her dressed up in her Easter outfit, or, well, I guess the Planet Cray equivalent of Easter, but whatever. So, since her name is also treated as the original Alestiel's name, you can persona ride back and forth between either form. So, then she also has her auto ability, that says at the beginning of your main phase, you choose a card from your bind zone, put it into your hand, and bind the top card of the deck. So this is a free +1 to your hand since it gets you a card that you bound earlier into your hand, and then you bind a new card. So again, it'll either randomly give you black wings or white wings. So she has her black wings ability, that is an activate skill, that says once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to search your deck for up to 1 card with the black wings ability, call it to rear guard circle, and shuffle the deck. So this is a very nice skill, letting you search out some of your vital combo pieces. The FuRyu, MIL, Elgato combo that we used in this deck before is still extremely important to be able to pull off every turn. So since 2 of those 3 cards are units with the Black Wings ability, you can search out either one of them with this skill. So this can be very helpful in getting those necessary combo pieces. It can basically grab any grade 2 you need from this deck since all of them have Black Wings. So overall, just an extremely helpful skill. And then she also has her White Wings ability, that is an auto skill, that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can counterblast 1 and discard a card from hand to search your deck or hand for up to 1 card with the original card name Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. Write it as stand, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn, and if you search the deck, shuffle the deck. So this is her main ability, letting you superior ride into OG Alestiel after you attack with her. So you'll get a second Vanguard attack that turn, and 4 attacks overall. Now it is a ±0 overall, since you do have to discard 1 in order to do this, and then you get 1 extra drive check on that extra Vanguard attack. So it doesn't generate any card advantage, but it does give you an extra trigger chance, and of course it still lets you take advantage of the skills of the OG Alestiel as well, to potentially weaken your opponent's Vanguard and or strengthen your own Vanguard. So out of the 2 abilities on this card, the White Wings is definitely the more important one to have active, since it is the key skill of the deck and the main part of your offense now. So hopefully you at least have White Wings active. Now if your deck is functioning properly, you should be able to have both Black Wings and White Wings active every turn. So you'll get to have the superior call off of the Black Wings skill and the White Wings pseudo restand ability. Now, if you do only have the Black Wings ability, you can use it to potentially superior call a copy of FuRyu from your deck, and then use her ability to get Elgato into your bind zone, or whoever else, really, to get the White Wings turned on. So, there's multiple ways to go about that, but ideally you do want to try to get both of them active, so that way when you do superior ride into OG Alestiel, she will have both her skills active as well. So overall, a very cool card. Now, one thing about this is when you do the superior ride, you do end your turn on OG Alestiel, so you will need to ride into another copy of Holy Alestiel next turn in order to repeat the entire combo, which, thanks to the DressUp ability, you will get the Persona ride off of that. But you do want to make sure you continuously swap back and forth between each form to pull off your full combo, which, again, we do have a rear guard that can help us get that more consistently as well. So yeah, overall just a fantastic upgraded boss unit for this deck. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, we do have our 3 additional copies of Holy Angel of Blessings Alestiel, like I said, for that very important Persona ride purpose. Double frame rare, of course, as well. That has a slightly different alternate art with her having a winking facial expression. So next up, we have 3 copies of Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. Now, I am running 1 copy of her regular triple rare art, as well as 2 copies of her LSR alternate art, so you can do whatever you prefer in that, but that's what I'm going with. So she has her auto ability that says at the beginning of your main phase, you choose a card from your bind zone, put it into your hand, and if you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. So again, the same basic skill as the new Alestiel has, letting you put 1 in your hand and bind a new one to get your random White Wings or Black Wings active. So even if you do miss your Persona ride and you have to sit on this card for a turn, you will still be able to do that part of your strategy. And then of course she has her White and Black Wings abilities. So her White Wing skill is her continuous ability that says during your turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000, critical plus 1. And then her Black Wings ability is another continuous skill that says during your turn, all of your opponent's units get power minus 5,000. So again, like I said, hopefully you will have both of these abilities active thanks to Elkel's skill, in which case your Vanguard will have that extra crit pressure and a little extra power, and all of your opponent's units will be weakened by 5k, so that should put their Vanguard to 8k if they're at grade 3. So if you use Holy Alestiel to Superior Ride into this, then all of the rest of your attacks that turn will have that power weakness afflicted onto your opponents. So that is a very nice skill. And again, hopefully you will Persona Ride into Holy Alestiel again on your next turn to be able to repeat that entire combo. But if you don't and you end up sitting on this card, you will still have access to these White and Black Wings abilities if you can get them turned on. So you will still be able to at least weaken your opponents and strengthen your own Vanguard, even if you can't get the extra Vanguard attack out of it. So yeah, obviously a vital piece for this deck, since you do have to specifically Superior Ride into this form off of Holy Alestiel skill. So then lastly for the grade 3s, we have 4 copies of Incessant Vocal Elkel. So she has 2 auto abilities. First of which is active on Rearguard Circle, and it says when your Vanguard is placed, you can bind this unit and draw a card. And then her second auto ability says when this card is bound, your card's White Wings and Black Wings are both active until the end of your opponent's next turn. So yes, this is still a very important combo piece in this deck. You do want to bind this card every turn, one way or another, in order to get both your Black Wings and your White Wings active, so then all of your skills will be online at one time. So ideally, every turn you'll call Finiel and use her skill to bind this card from your hand, and then it'll end up back in your hand thanks to Alestiel's skill at the beginning of your next main phase. So you can loop this into your bind zone every turn using that combo. Now that does require both a copy of Finiel and a way to bounce her back to your hand every turn, or, you know, just having more copies of her in your hand. Now, alternatively, you do have her first auto ability to be a way to get her into the bind zone, which is a bit more versatile now than it was before, since she doesn't have to sit on your board for a turn before you can ride during your ride phase and bind her, since you can get the Superior Ride during your battle phase and bind her then. However, I still try to avoid using that skill, because if you use it, you end up with multiple cards in your bind zone, and you don't really want to do that, because if something goes wrong and you're not able to get Elkel bound again the next turn, then you run the risk of having all of your skills cut off if you end up with, you know, an odd and an even grade in your bind zone. Then neither your Black Wings or your White Wings will be active. So I try not to get multiple cards into the bind zone if I can help it. So I still don't usually use this skill. I try to go for the Finiel combo. But it can be a, you know, fallback backup just in case if you are really desperate to get both your Black and White Wings online. So yeah, still an extremely important card in this deck. Now again, you can loop it, so usually you only need to see one copy of it, so any extra copies can just be discard fodder or whatever. But yeah, an absolute 4 of, since it's a vital card for this deck, and unfortunately it is not searchable in any way. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 4 copies of Privilege Potential Finiel. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if you have a Vanguard with Alestiel in its card name, you can Soul Blast one to choose a card from your bind zone and put it into your hand. And if you put a card into your hand, you choose a card from your hand and bind it. So this is the other key combo piece that lets you bind Elkel every turn to get both your wings online. Now it is an on-place skill, so you do have to keep calling her every turn to keep reusing this ability. It also has a Soul Blast cost, so you have to mine that resource as well, so you can pay the cost to do so. But obviously very important, letting you swap whatever you happen to bind off the top of your deck from Alestiel's skill with an Elkel in your hand. So extremely important ability, and we do actually have multiple ways to bounce her back to our hand in this deck to potentially reuse this skill multiple times off of one copy. And then she also has our Black Wings ability, which is an auto skill that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast one to choose one of your opponent's grade 3 or greater Vanguards, and it gets power minus 5,000 until end of turn. So again, a very helpful skill, not only for the fact that it can reduce your opponent's Vanguard's power even further, which will stack with the power reduction from OG Alestiel as well, but also for the fact that it's just a Black Wings ability, which makes this card searchable now off of Holy Alestiel's skill, if you do have your Black Wings online. So being able to search this key combo piece and then immediately use its skill off the Superior Call to get both your wings online does help make that combo go a lot smoother sometimes. So yeah, another definite 4 of and an absolute vital card for the deck. So next up we have 3 copies of Heavenly Recital MIL. So she has her Black Wings ability that is an auto skill that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked while boosted. You choose a card from your soul or rear guards and you may return it to your hand. And if you chose from your soul, you put this unit into your soul. So this is the last combo piece in our big combo. This is the main card that lets you bounce Finnael back to your hand every turn for free. Now we're also running Yuika in this deck, so that is another option to get Finnael back into your hand if you have Yuika behind her. So not as vital as before, but still an important card, being able to bounce your combo pieces and protect them off your board. We also have another grade 1 card in this deck now that has an on-call skill, so you can potentially bounce it and reuse its on-call as well. So still a very helpful card. Now, another thing you can do with this card now is, like I said, since you do want to ride back into Holy Alestiel every turn, if you don't have a Persona Ride copy in your hand, you can actually use this card to grab the Ride deck copy out of your soul and get it into your hand to ride into next turn. Now, if you do that, you'll have to sacrifice being able to bounce Finnael, unless you have another card that can do so. But this can be a way to get that Persona Ride more consistently every turn as well, since it does let you grab a card from your soul. Now, if you grab a card from the soul, you usually have to shove MIL into the soul to replace it, so you end up losing one of your combo pieces again. However, if you combo this card with Yuika and have Yuika be the one that boosts her when she does have to be boosted to use this skill in the first place, you boost MIL with Yuika, resolve Yuika's skill first to bounce MIL back to your hand, and then resolve MIL's skill to grab Holy Alestiel from your soul, then you won't have to shove MIL into your soul at that point because she won't be a unit anymore, she'll be in your hand safely. So that can be a good combo to loop your Alestiels without having to lose access to your MIL. And of course, if you've run out of copies of OG Alestiel in your deck, you can also use this skill to grab a copy of her from your soul and get it into your hand to Superior Ride from your hand. So yeah, another fantastic card for this deck. I am keeping it at just 3 instead of 4, since again it is searchable off of Holy Alestiel's skill. But if you want to take out another card and bump it up to 4, I'll point out one that you can do that with here in a moment. So next up, we also have 1 copy of Aim for the Horizon PIL. So her Black Wings ability is a continuous skill that says if you have a Vanguard with Alestiel in its card name, this unit can attack a grade 3 or greater Vanguard from the back row. So this is a pretty useful card, potentially giving you a 5th attack per turn, on top of the 4th attack you can get from the 2nd Vanguard swing. So she's not going to be swinging for very big numbers, since she's just a 10k body that can't increase her own power anyway, and she's attacking from the back row, so she can't be boosted. So unless you stack some triggers on her or something, she's not going to be hitting very large numbers. But between OG Alestiel and Finnael's skill, you can potentially get your opponent's Vanguard down to 3k. So I generally like saving this for my push turn. You can use Holy Alestiel's skill to search her out from the deck and Superior Call her. And if your opponent's at 5 damage, you don't have to worry about, damage triggers screwing you over. So then you can get your full 5 attack combo with this card, while your opponent has the weakened Vanguard power, and potentially give you that little extra boost in order to finish them off. So I think it is a pretty cool card just to keep in as a 1 of. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we have one copy of Love Gazing Terusio. So she has a Black Wings ability that's an auto skill that says when this unit is put on Guardian Circle, you can choose one of your opponent's back row rear guards and rest it. So I did keep this in at 1 just because I think it's a funny card to use against certain decks. If you're going against a deck that has a back row attacker, you can potentially rest it and reduce their number of attacks that turn. Or if they just have a giant booster like a Trick Moon or a Brainwash Swallower that got pumped up a lot or something, you can rest those as well and end up screwing over their combo. So yeah, I do like using this card just for some of those funny situations. It's not vital by any means. If you do want to run a 4th copy of MIL, this probably is the best card to drop in order to up her to 4. So yeah, you can do what you want with that, but I did keep her in as a 1 of. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 3 copies of Together With You, Seraphiel. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you choose a grade 3 card with Alestiel and its card name from your drop, and you may put it on the bottom of the deck. So this is a useful ability to recycle your copies of OG Alestiel into your deck, so you can search them out for your superior ride. So if you draw into any copies of her early game, she makes for excellent discard fodder for your ride deck or whatever, and then you can just call this card and cycle them back to the bottom, which can be very important if the game goes long or you damage check some copies of OG Alestiel or whatever, since you can only superior ride her from the deck or the hand. So if they're all like in your soul or something, you do have to find a way to either get them back into your deck or into your hand. So you can do the MIL combo to superior ride them from hand, or you can just soul blast them out and use Seraphiel's skill to put them back to the bottom of the deck. So a very useful skill in helping extend those plays. And then she also has her White Wings ability that is an auto skill that's active on the back row rearguard circle that says when your unit with Alestiel and its card name is placed on Vanguard circle during your battle phase, you can stand this unit. So this card is also primarily your Vanguard booster as well, since when you superior ride into OG Alestiel, she will restand herself, so both those attacks will be able to be boosted and be at full strength. So if you put her behind one of your rear guards, you will still get to restand her, but it won't help anything since your front row rear guards don't have any way to restand. So primarily you want to put her in the back row center, but if you need a booster behind MIL or something, you still can use this card for that. You just won't be able to take advantage of the restand. But still, overall, a very important card for the deck. So next up, we also have 4 copies of Cooling Heart Yuika. So she has her 2 auto skills. First one says once per turn, when your other unit in the same column as this unit is placed. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. And then she has her second auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit boosted a rearguard. You can Soul Blast one and choose one of the boosted rearguards and return it to your hand. So again, a very important card for this deck, giving you another option to bounce your Fenil back to your hand, or anybody that it boosts, but primarily Fenil. You could boost MIL as well with this card to get her skill active and then bounce MIL back to your hand in order to protect her from like control decks or whatever. But yeah, having more bouncing options in this deck is extremely important. And of course she is a 13k base as well when you call something to the same column as her. So a helpful offensive unit on top of that. So very, very important card. So the only other grade ones we have are Sentinels. So first off we have 3 copies of Unwelcoming in Private Deciel. So just your standard perfect card. As well as 1 copy of the Bloodsorter Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is 6 crit, 5 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. I still am running the odd trigger lineup. I guess the draws aren't as important now, so if you want to drop them to 4, you can. But I decided to just stick with it to increase my draw power as much as possible. So starting first with the crits, we have 2 copies of Wings Dancing in the Blue Skies Antia. So just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Precious Tune Edwidge. So crit with a skill at the end of the battle at boosted, you can put it in your soul to give one of your units plus 2k until end of turn. So this can be a way to help build up your soul if you need it for paying those soul blast costs for Finael or whatever. So next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Transparent Snowy Knight Baratois. So draw with a skill if your opponent's Vanguard's greater or greater, shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. And additionally, we do have 1 copy of Haughty Missy Arrow. So just a vanilla draw on top of that. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Soft Light Pruel. So just your vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any effect heals, you can. And then lastly for our over trigger, we have Blessing Diva Grizael. So her additional effect says during this fight, you get during your turn, all of your rearguards get power plus 10,000. So grants a skill to the fighter, powering up all your rearguards for the rest of the game. Definitely a devastating trigger to check into, especially if you do it really early. So strengthening all your rearguards, obviously very good, especially in this deck that can both restand your Vanguard booster and weaken your opponent's unit's power. So very, very cool skill. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, I think we'll fight Taiji this time. And we will be going first.
Stand up, Vanguard!
Alright, so we'll discard that OG Alestiel to ride. And grade 1 Alestiel. Let's just bind the top card, and it is a grade 1, so we got our white wings active. So with that, I think we'll just go ahead and end our turn. And he gets to search out his research order. And I'll let that one through. And he gets a heal trigger, which is wasted, since he has nothing to heal. Alright, so now thanks to our White Wings ability, we can Soul Blast in order to ride. And preserve our hand. And then grade 2 Alestiel will send our bound card to the bottom and bind a new one. And again, we have White Wings active since we bound a grade 3. So that means we can go ahead and use Alestiel's White Wing skill and Counter Blast. And gain a crit. And I'm going to go ahead and call Seraphiel behind our Vanguard. And we'll use her skill to send that OG Alestiel from the drop back to the bottom. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and attack. And he lets that one through. So that will be 2 damage. We took out one of his obstacle beads. And he searches out another copy of his research order. When she plays. And I'll let that one through.
Vanguard にアタック
And I think I'll let that one through too.
ノーガードダメージチェックドロートリガー
And we'll get a draw trigger.
パワープラス
ターンエンド
私のターンドロー
Alright, so we'll discard that draw
ライド
to ride Holy Alestiel.
スキル発動
And her skill will put our bound card into hand and bind a new card. And we bind a crit trigger. So Black Wings is active, but that doesn't matter because we're going to call Finiel over here
コール
and use her skill. And Soul Blast one.
スキル発動
And now we can bind one from our hand, so we will bind Elgato and use her skill
スキル発動
to turn on both our black and white wings. So with that, I'm going to call Yuika
コール
over here, and then we'll use Alestiel's Black Wings ability. And let's see, we'll discard Seraphiel,
スキル発動
and we will search out a copy of MIL from our deck and Superior Call her.
スペリオルコール
And I think we are good to go with that. So we will go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first, boosted by Seraphiel.
ヴァンガードにアタック
ノーガード
ドライブチェッ
And
ク
let's that one through.
ドライブチェック
ダメージチェッククリティカルトリガークリテ
It
ィカル
gets a
プラス
crit trigger.
パワープラス
But now we can use Alestiel's White Wings ability. So we will Counterblast one and discard one. So we'll drop... And we'll drop MIL, I guess.
スキル発動
And now we can Superior Ride into Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel.
この子の出番よライド
Which will reduce all his units' power and give herself an extra 5k and a crit.
スキル発動
And then Seraphiel's skill will restand herself. So now we can attack once again with our Vanguard, boosted by Seraphiel again.
ガード
And he
ドライブ
guards.
チェックよしヒールトリガー
But we get a heal trigger, which we do get, so we will heal one. And we will give that power to Finiel.
パワープラス
He had to use up another Obscadede copy as well to guard that. Alright, so now we will go ahead and attack with Finiel.
ヴァンガードにアタック
And we could use our skill there, but it won't do anything because he's only a grade 2, so we're not going to use that.
ガード
So then we'll attack with MIL, boosted by Yuika.
ヴァンガードにアタック
ノーガード
And let's that one through.
ダメージチェックヒールトリガー
Oh, but he gets a heal trigger, which he does
パ
get.
ワープラス
So now we can go ahead and resolve Yuika's ability to Soul Blast one,
スキル発動
and bounce her back to our hand, and then use MIL's
スキル
skill,
発動
and bounce Finiel back to our hand as well.
ターンエンド
スタンド&ドローこれでお前の勝機はないライドセットオーダースキル発動
And he plays another copy of his research order.
スキル発動パワープラススキル発動パワープラススキル発動
And he got to search off a tech to end, but he didn't find anything.
これで俺の勝利スキル発動
And he couldn't fill up his other rearguard circle, so he's only going to get 3 attacks this turn, even with the superior call. So, let's see. I think I'm going to let that one through, actually. Oh, and he pulls his over trigger. That's going to double the power and critical of his whole front row. So this attack's going to put us to 4. Well, it's a good thing I got some perfect guards in my hand. And there goes our 1 PIL. Alright, let's see. I am going to... I guess I'll just drop 2 triggers to guard that one. Overguarding a little, but it's okay. And then we will guard that with Sanctitude. And drop that crit. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride back into our DressUp form. In the Alestiel skill, we'll add Elgato back to our hand and bind a new card, which is Yuika, but again it doesn't matter because we're going to call FuRyu and use her skill once again to Soul Blast the Holy Alestiel from our soul. And then bind Elgato, which turns on both our black and white wings. So we will call MIL, want to trigger Yuika's ability to give her a 5k boost. And then we'll go ahead and call another Yuika behind FuRyu as well, since PIL got damage checked. So I think we are good to go with that. So we will go ahead and attack. And let's see, I'm going to attack with FuRyu first, actually. And we'll use her skill to counterblast. And reduces Vanguard's power by 5k. And we could use Yuika there to bounce FuRyu, but I'm actually not going to do that. And instead, I'm going to attack with the Vanguard. As he perfect guards. And we'll get a draw trigger. So we'll give that power to... You know what? I'm going to give it to Seraphiel. And that'll make our other Vanguard swing bigger. So now we can use Holy Alestiel's White Wings ability to counterblast and discard 1. So we'll drop that Elgato. And Superior Ride Archangel of Twin Wings from our deck. Which again weakens all of his units by another 5k. And Seraphiel restands herself. So now we can attack once again, boosted by Seraphiel for 46,002 crit against his 3k Vanguard. Oh, and he's got to let it through. And we pull our over trigger on top. So give that power to MIL. And then boost all of our rear guards by 10k. And unless he gets a heal, that should get him. And he did not, so we got him with that one.
私の勝ちね。やった。
So there you go. That was version 2 of my Alestiel deck. This deck is one of my favorite lyrical decks overall, and it is even more fun to play now with Alestiel's new DressUp form. So anyway, I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I'll be doing another one of the DressUp decks with version 2 of Laronaral. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.